Hello and welcome back to Fieldstudy. Spring is definitely in the air down here on the island, and for a forager like me, that means one very important thing. It's wild garlic season. So in this week's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to safely identify wild garlic, how to tell it apart from one of its toxic lookalikes, and then we're going to be going back to Fieldstudy Kitchen, and I'm going to be showing you one of my favourite ways to preserve it. It's a glorious day. So this beautiful lime green colour you can see growing all around me is wild garlic, or Allium ursinum. The Latin name means bear's garlic, and it is a native wild onion that we have here in the UK, and it grows in woodlands like this. It likes the dappled shade of a forest floor. You will sometimes find it growing in open land and in hedgerows, but it is more common to find it in beautiful patches of woodland like this. And for a beginner forager, it is super easy to identify. Here's how. Wild garlic forms these upright clumps of blade-shaped leaves. In my opinion, the leaves are best at this time of year when they are young and succulent before the tree canopy closes in. Here's a nice leaf. You'll notice that if we turn it over, it has this really pronounced central rib, and it has these veins that run down the leaf. So all onion species are monocotyledon. If you don't know what that means, you can Google it if you're interested. But basically, it is a plant that has sort of like a singular blade-like leaf. So we're talking blades of grass, we're talking daffodils, snowdrop. Imagine like a really chunky, chubby blade of grass. The leaf itself has this really pronounced central midrib, and if we look really closely, we can see that the veins of the leaf actually follow the midrib along. So they go from one end to the other and don't branch off. Now, keeping that in mind, I'm going to show you one of the most common toxic plants that grows in amongst wild garlic that you could potentially get it mistaken for. So this plant here is commonly known as lords and ladies or cuckoo pint, Arum maculatum, or the arum lily, and you will find it growing in amongst wild garlic. It likes to grow in the same spots that wild garlic grows. But this is not one that you want to be taking home and eating. So you'll remember I mentioned that our wild garlic has a blade-like leaf. You'll notice that it runs all the way down the stem, and the reason that we sort of identify it like that is to tell it apart from this. Lords and Ladies has this spear-shaped leaf. It has these really distinct tangs on the bottom of it. And also, if we look up the central midrib of the leaf, we can see these branching veins, which are different to the veining that runs up the leaf of our wild garlic. So that is how to tell these two plants apart. Lords and Ladies also has these really slender stems. They are really distinctive, these two plants. It is very difficult to get them mixed up if you are careful with your picking. And that is why I urge you, when picking wild garlic, pick it leaf by leaf and pay close attention to what you're picking. So this is a really good example of why you need to be paying attention when you're foraging for wild garlic. This is wild garlic here. This is the stuff that we're after. But this is Lords and Ladies. This example is sort of like a similar leaf size. If I was sort of just grabbing stuff like that, I'd end up with Lords and Ladies in my foraging basket, and that would not be good. Lords and Ladies, Arum maculatum, is toxic because it is an extreme irritant. Inside the cells of this plant are thousands upon thousands of tiny little crystals. So if you were to put a leaf of this in your mouth and chew it up, then those crystals break loose and start to rupture the inside of your mouth. Ugh, gives me the shivers. I've never done it before, but I've heard that the sensation is like eating battery acid. It's like intense sort of pain. If you were then to swallow it, it would do the same to your gastric intestinal tract all the way down. So it can cause real internal damage if eaten. So it is important to look out for it, know what you're looking for, and make sure that you're only going home with the plant that you're after. In foraging, knowledge is the only thing that will keep you safe. And remember, cautious foragers live longer. The final test, once you have picked wild garlic really cautiously, leaf by leaf, is to crush it and give it a sniff. So when you're sniffing it, you should be able to smell onioniness and garlickiness And that is because this and all other allium species in the world contain something called allicin. Now, allicin is a really cool chemical. It's formed when we damage the plant. It's like a chemical reaction that creates this thing that we're really sensitive to. Our senses are really sort of tuned in to a sulfur compound called allicin. So when we damage onions and garlic, it gives off this really heady scent. The way I like to think about it is that onions are human food. Now, we talk about other species like pandas and like butterflies and stuff, that they all have a sort of like a food plant. Now, one of our really important food plants or groups of food plants as a human being is onions. If we think about this in a little bit of detail to give it context, how many cultures around the world does their national dish start with frying onions? And if someone starts like frying onions somewhere in the house, that smell of cooking is really, really homely. That is because all onions are edible to human beings. They are really, really good for us. So we have developed this sense to be able to pick them out in the landscape from a distance. Because we are so sensitive to the smell of onions, if there is any doubt about whether you can smell onions or garlic, then leave it behind. If that scent isn't hitting you around the face and being like, hello, I'm an onion, then it's probably not the plant that you are looking for. Move on. Hey, Mr. Blackbird. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't talk to you about picking wild garlic sustainably. All over the UK and all the way through Europe, actually, you'll see on restaurant menus all sorts of dishes involving wild garlic springing up. In order to get that wild garlic, there are people out there that go and pick it in bunches and completely decimate colonies of it. Now, if you're watching this and you like the stuff that I make, I think that you're probably a reasonable individual that wouldn't go out and do that stuff. But it's important to remember that as a human being in the landscape, you have the ability, because of the way that our brain functions, to preserve things, to make things better, to sow seeds in barren places, to introduce plants, to do good by the landscape. But there's a flip side to that. You also have the ability innately within you to cause destruction. And it is important to recognize that in yourself and not to give in to it, to keep yourself in check. So if you're going out and you're harvesting wild garlic by the carrier bag load, picking loads of it and trying to get rich selling it to restaurants, know that what you're doing is unsustainable. It means the year after there won't be as much wild garlic. It means in years and years and years to come that if people do that over and over again, then wild garlic will become scarce. The money you made will be gone. You might have died, but you'll leave the landscape more dilapidated than the day you were born. So it is important, not to get too preachy, to go into the woodland gently, pick what you need in order to make the thing that you're going to make, and then leave quietly. Be a force for good in the landscape. You'll notice that I'm only picking a couple of leaves from each bunch, and then I'm sort of moving on. And also, when you're in woodland that has loads of wild garlic like this, be really careful where you tread, because one of the main things that sort of gets rid of understory plants like this is compaction. So if loads and loads of people go trampling into the woodland and off the path, then we start to compact it down, so then plants can't actually grow. So yeah, tread carefully, pick a few leaves, and then move on. That way, when you leave the forest, it'll look like you were never here. If you are lucky enough to live in the countryside like me, then hollow ways like this, these steep banks, are really good for harvesting wild garlic, because it means that you don't have to trample into a woodland, causing compaction and damage to the forest floor. You can literally just lean in, grab a leaf, put it in your basket, and all of this soil is completely undisturbed by my feet. And when it flowers, you get these beautiful white firework explosions of flowers carpeting the woodland floor. These flowers are edible too, so you can put them on top of a salad, scatter them on anything you want to make look extra fancy. But in my opinion, the best bit of the whole plant are these immature flowering heads. They have a really short season, but you can pick them, pickle them, brine them, and basically put them on everything. To learn more about foraging, head to fieldstudy.co.uk and check out the links in the description below. So there we go, now we know how to identify wild garlic safely and sustainably. It's time to go back to the Fieldstudy Kitchen, where I'm going to show you how to make a wild garlic oil, the likes of which you'll probably get served at a really, really posh restaurant. It goes on absolutely everything. Let's go. So we're back here in the Fieldstudy Kitchen and we are going to make a wild garlic oil. Now this is a take on a green oil, or like a herb oil that they serve in really posh restaurants. You can get as scientific and as nerdy with this as you want. But today I'm going to show you the most simplified version of this recipe that's easy to recreate at home. We are going to be using an ice bath. Don't freak out. I think you guys can handle it. It's just some ice in some water. Right, let's get on with it. Firstly, chop up about 3 handfuls of our freshly washed wild garlic leaves. Put them into a smaller bowl and then blend them with a stick blender. So next we need to talk about the oil that we're going to use. So you need an oil that is super neutral, barely any flavour whatsoever. I have sunflower oil here, you could use rapeseed oil, anything like that. If you use a good olive oil, the olivey flavour will sort of overpower the garlic a little bit, and if you use bad olive oil, then it's just super expensive. So use something really nice and neutral, and it lets the flavour of the wild garlic sort of sing. Add about 500 mils of it into a pan. We're going to heat this super gently to around 80 degrees. We don't want to get it anywhere near its smoking point. We just need it to be hot enough to extract the chlorophyll from these leaves to make it a vibrant green colour. Now, whilst that's heating up, it's time to talk water baths. So this is the sciencey bit. The heat from our oil, when we put it into our wild garlic pulp, is going to extract all of that green colour, that chlorophyll. However, we don't want it to stay too hot for too long. If we didn't cool it down, that green colour would start to degrade. Think about sort of stewed vegetables. If you stew broccoli for ages, it goes sort of like a drab olive green and doesn't taste quite so great. And that will happen in our oil if we don't cool it down. So, to cool it down rapidly, we create a water bath. You'll notice that I have 2 different sized bowls here. This small one fits inside the big one. So far, so simple. So, in the big one, we just need to put a little bit of water and a little bit of ice. Our oil is coming up to temperature and it's time to bring this all together. Oh, look at the colour of that. Combine the hot oil and the wild garlic and carefully mix for 1 to 3 minutes. Then suspend it in the ice bath and carry on mixing until it is completely cool. Then get my trusty funnel and simply pass it through something like a coffee filter or a muslin cloth or something like that. Let's pop that under there so I don't get any more on the tablecloth. And there we go, this beautiful luminous green wild garlic elixir. It is good on pretty much everything. I have it on my eggs in the morning, have it on soup, a nice brothy stinging nettle and butter bean stew with a bit of that drizzled on top. Very nice indeed. Or my absolute favourite as a snack, a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, some of last year's elderberry balsamic vinegar, and then a Jackson Pollock splurge of our wild garlic oil. Mopped up with a nice bit of bread. This is delicious and simpler than it looks. It's an excellent way of preserving that incredible wild garlic aroma for the seasons to come. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button and hit subscribe for more foraging videos from this beautiful landscape. My name is Joseph. This is Fieldstudy, and until next week, take care. Do-do. Idiot.